You see a lot more vaginal atrophy, or what is it, genital urinary syndrome of menopause. So you see a lot more vaginal pain with
A
intercourse.
lot of skin changes, of course.
Yes, definitely. You know, the skin, the hydration changes you'll notice with that. Even because of the hormones have been declined for so long that you'll see, breast change. Deep menopause, when symptoms fade, but health still matters. I'm Dr. Valerie.
And I'm Dr. Mackey from the Progression Health Podcast.
Real quick before we jump on in, wanted to just let you guys know. So if you've been listening to us, then you probably have heard my spiel here. But if you are wanting to understand your hormones and wanting to know about your symptoms and what to do next, I have created an app for you. It's called Hormone Navigator. It's not just about tracking, but it'll actually help you understand your hormone phase and give you personalized guidance into any kind of strategies or goals that you're working on.
So visit hormonenavigator.com to check it out.
All right. So now we're going to talk about deep menopause.
Yeah. So we've gone through a little bit of a progression here, just because it seems sort of relevant to what we're actually doing with the app. So we talked about perimenopause a few episodes ago. We talked about the in-betweener phase. Mm-hmm. We talked about entering menopause. Yep. The last one we did was middle menopause. So now we're going to continue that conversation. We're going to talk about deep menopause. So what's the distinction there? When are we talking about in deep menopause?
And this is the thing. After 20 years, I've sort of created my own hormone phases because I've seen so many different transitions and changes with hormones that it can't just be perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. And where menopause is one day.
You don't like postmenopause.
I don't like the word postmenopause. Makes us feel dated, like I'm expired, I'm behind, back there. I'm, I was in post. Like, no.
Yeah, men don't have any of those descriptions. Yeah. I mean, men don't have any of them. I mean, they do call like andropause or menopause.
It never really stuck, but postmenopause is what people say. I'm a postmenopausal female. It just makes us feel dated and expired, and I just don't like the terminology. I love words, and I love verbiage, and I love verbosity, and I love words. So I've kind of renamed it as deep menopause. So we have the entering menopause, which your body can be a shock on, oh my goodness, what's happening in my body? That's where you get a lot of the acute symptoms. And then you kind of delve into middle menopause, where women are like, please don't let this be my new normal. And you see, kind of a collective change there, especially more physically. And then deep menopause is where those hormones have truly, like the body wouldn't remember those hormones. And we'll talk about HRT with a woman that's in deep menopause and introducing that to them. Because when the body hasn't seen hormones for a while, you don't want to just shock their system if you're going to jump into HRT.
Yeah. So so age-wise, what are we talking about? What would be
definitely post 60? If you've gone into menopause, you entered menopause around 50, 51, you go into middle menopause in your mid 50s, and then once you're kind of coming later, closer towards 60, after 60, that's when you're really into that deep menopause.
So relatively late 50s, on average, late 50s into your 60s and beyond.
Exactly. And
is there anything beyond deep menopause, or would everything, let's say 57 and beyond, would be considered deep menopause?
I would consider it that, because I feel like if a woman's into deep menopause, this is the time when we really, we always talk about preventative. Everything should have been started in perimenopause. But sometimes, women are like, I feel pretty good. And then they hit a point where they're like, oh my gosh, my bone density is, I've got osteopenia, osteoporosis. That's what you see in deep menopause.
Right.
You might see the startings of that in middle menopause, like, oh, look, my hormones are down. And now my cholesterol's going up, and maybe my blood pressure. I had to be put on blood pressure medication, in middle menopause. But in deep menopause is where, like, oh my goodness, we're trying to reverse this bone density, work on the cardiovascular health and make sure that we're protecting the brain.
Well, and especially now with the use of the GLPs, I think that bone density issue is going to become, women trying to always, granted, weight is a huge issue in America and around the world, but always trying to be skinnier and skinnier and skinnier at the consequence of your bone and muscle. When you're in any of the phases we've been talking about, even the in-betweener, and you're losing bone and muscle, you're not going to get that stuff back unless you're physically doing something relatively very hard, meaning lifting some kind of weights of some sort to be able to even maintain muscle, let alone build it. Okay. I mean, I'm a man. I wish building muscle was really that easy. It's hard enough for men to build muscle. It's even harder for women to build muscle. And I say this to all my patients, and I've said it on the podcast here before too. The number one factor for aging is, what they call sarcopenia. So I know you know what that is, but losing muscle tissue or lack of muscle tissue. So now I'm digressing here, but I'll get back to this deep menopause. There's a point in a woman's life or any human's life where they go from middle-aged, baby boomer, whatever, to being a little frail and elderly. Okay, so maybe there is a stage after deep menopause where they kind of transition. What do you think dictates that, or where do you think that range lies?
There's just so many nuances to that. I mean, so many variables. We could be here for like 2 days talking about, once somebody's cholesterol goes up, they go on statin meds. Their blood pressure goes up, they go on blood pressure medications. Oh, their bone density has gone down. Let's go on some biphosphates or some bone density medication. And all of a sudden they're taking, 6 different pills twice a day. That's where, and then not that medication is bad, because I feel like medication can save your life. It can really, really be used as a tool to help further your health. But if it's used as a crutch, you just end up, like you said, becoming less muscle mass, more frail, more weak, maybe more medication. So I feel like with deep menopause is when you start to see a lot of those metabolic changes. So, maybe even jumping into diabetes, definitely insulin resistance, because when estrogen drops, your insulin sensitivity goes way down. That's also where, and
when your muscle mass goes away, you lose your insulin sensitivity
tremendously. So you kind of see this sort of exponential, let me rephrase that. You could possibly see an exponential increase in sort of the decline of health. Like you could see this decline go really fast once you hit deep menopause. Yeah. If you're not saying in some ways like, okay, we got to repair the dam. Because sure, in perimenopause, we could work on nutrition, keep our insulin sensitivity up, keep that muscle mass up, balance those hormones as they transition from menopause or, perimenopause to an in-betweener to entering menopause to middle menopause. You can make that strategy way back then, but sometimes, it just doesn't happen that way. And they're in deep menopause and they've got bone density issues there. And you think about not just, the muscle, the bone density, the heart and the brain where, we got to start to, like I said, try to reverse that, which is really hard. They're also suffering from, you'll see some of these changes, more weight gain. There's more weight gain. There definitely
more aches and pains, more osteoarthritis, less energy.
That's where you get a lot of the diagnosis of osteoarthritis. Now, in perimenopause, women will say, "I have joint pain," and their doctors will say, "Well, I don't know what's wrong with you. Your labs look great. You're fine. I don't, maybe it's a food allergy. It's not." And it could be, but that's where, but then you see it in, in postmenopause is when it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, you have osteoarthritis now. Like, I mean, sure, we're all going to get some form of osteoarthritis, but hopefully it's when we're 100, because we lived long enough. We want to try to push that back as far as possible. That's where you see a lot of those chronic conditions start to really become their diagnoses.
Yeah, right. And then the whole conversation sort of changes. That's why maintaining a good quality of life in your 40s and 50s prepares you for your 60s and 70s. So you're right, there isn't as much of a decline like that. And unfortunately, medicine doesn't do a good job. They just kind of shuffle people along. And there's really no focus on, we've seen this recently in our personal life, which is not great. Well, we've seen that there's, if there isn't a pill or a medication or a surgical procedure, there's not much they can do. Okay. And there's no focus on actually health and bringing someone back from a problem of some sort. And honestly, that's why you and I are doing what we're doing in general, because we've always had that fundamental disagreement with, here, just take a pill and you're fine. It really doesn't work like that.
And I feel like in deep menopause, it's not like, oh, great, now here I am. It's a point of no return. Anybody can come back from anything. But, we have patients of all ages, and they've come to us from all different ages, is women that are in deep menopause. I don't necessarily throw them right into HRT because their bodies haven't seen estrogen and progesterone for a really long time. Yeah. You throw them into some HRT, they're going to get puffy, munchy, maybe even inflamed because of these hormones entering their system when they haven't seen them. So you can sometimes I'll start off real slow, real low, maybe start off with a low dose of progesterone or a little bit of DHEA or something, and then start to matriculate as their bodies get used to it, if they even need it. And while you're doing that, then you're optimizing their adrenal function. You're looking at their pregnenolone, you're looking at their cortisol, you're optimizing their thyroid levels with their free T3 and their free T4. And then you're
maybe testosterone.
Yep, maybe even a little testosterone, just introduction, because I always feel like less is best, and then you start off little and then you work your way up so you don't overshoot the mark. Then you can find that happy medium, because the body is, even if it's something good, if you give it too much of it, it's like, whoa, be careful. So I feel like, the HR, you have to be a little bit gentle with the HRT with the women that are coming to you in deep menopause. But there's so many other aspects that when you're looking at functional medicine that we could go into, like you even mentioned the peptides. There's a lot of promise possibly with that as things move forward. I would say definitely lifestyle, dietary, nutrition, supplementation is huge in a woman with, especially in deep menopause, where you can get a tremendous amount of effect doing, targeted supplementation.
Right. We haven't even touched too much on peptides. We're going to definitely talk more about those. There's supposed to be some kind of a ruling in July 2026 that we're sort of all of us functional medicine doctors are sort of waiting for. Yeah, because there's a list of 7 different. I was listening to a podcast the other day. There's a list of 7 peptides that are going to be changing category as far as being able to be prescribed and compounded legally, which I think is a great benefit for everybody. So deep menopause. Now we're focusing more on some of the those age-related problems that that we all in America all have to be worried about. Diabetes, Alzheimer's, heart disease, cancer, all of it. We have to be concerned about all those things. And, in some ways that's the argument too, when those hormones drop off so drastically, especially for women, their risk for all those things sort of, skyrockets across the board.
And not just to mention that, but even just, I know it might seem superficial, but, you see a lot of hair loss in that deep menopause. You see a lot of hair thinning because the hair follicle gets really small, because the estrogen has gone down, so the hair that comes out is a little bit more fragile and smaller in diameter. You see a lot more vaginal atrophy, or what is it, genital urinary syndrome of menopause. So you see a lot more vaginal pain with intercourse.
A lot of skin changes, of course.
Yes, definitely. The skin, the hydration changes. You'll notice with that, even because of the hormones have been declined for so long, that you'll see breast changes. Women will say I used to be a cup size bigger than I am now. You'll see a lot of those changes as well. So and that's not. Like I said, I don't want to be superficial or vain, but it's true when, especially for females in their hair, it's very, messes with your psychology. Weight gain, that's where you see even more kind of, starting to lose the shape, or more of the belly, the belly fat or the back fat.
The visceral fat, the sort of the dangerous fat that we're all trying to avoid. Now, GLPs certainly do a good job of, keeping that to a minimum. But at the same time, it's still a real concern, because then your risk for all those other problems, goes up tremendously. So, now, do you have anything else to add? So we did our whole series. We did, perimenopause, in betweener, entering menopause, middle menopause, deep menopause. Do you have anything else to add as we sort of wrap up this, little 5-part series?
Like I said, we kind of spread it out a little bit, but each person that's in that phase needs to be treated differently. So I feel like too many people get grouped into perimenopause, too many people get grouped into, postmenopause, and that's just where they're at, where you need to treat everybody differently. An in-betweener is treated much differently than someone entering menopause versus middle menopause. And like I said, with deep menopause, you can get so much effect because you want to increase that longevity and that quality of life, that you can get a really lot of effect of somebody in deep menopause. You just have to go about it a little bit differently than just slapping on a patch or giving them some permetrium. In fact, I would never necessarily do that right away. Like I said, I would start off really slow and small and get our wins and continue to get our wins.
Yeah. Hopefully that was, some good information for everybody watching. If you're interested in the app, again, this is probably coming out sometime in the either end part of April or the middle part of May 2026. If you go to studio.com, where our app, or if you just go to the hormonenavigator.com, the studio.com platform, they're offering 20% off on the app, during that first 10 days. This is supposed to be like a kind of like a flagship launch of a bunch of different creators. So we're extremely excited about it. And thanks for being patient as we have been trying to struggle through plugging our, giving some good and valuable information, but also plugging our app at the same time. We promise we'll sort of tone down the shameless plugs. So any final comments?
Nope, this is great. Thank you.
Okay. Till next time, I'm Dr. Mackey.
And I'm Dr. Valerie.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.